Hey, good morning. It's Patricia Murphy. It's Monday. This is Seattle Now. After an outcry from business owners to do more to fight crime downtown, Mayor Harrell is promising a new approach.
At the end of the day, everyone has to feel safe. The children, the people in wheelchairs, the shoppers, the employees and employers, everyone has to feel safe.
We'll talk about the plan for 3rd Avenue and why it's never been easy with Seattle Times reporter Sara Jean Green. But first, let's get you caught up. Police investigators are reviewing what led officers to fatally shoot a man downtown Saturday night. SPD says they started getting 911 calls about gunshots just after 8 p.m. They say officers found the suspect near 1st and Marion, where he'd rammed a car into the federal building. Police say he was still armed when officers contacted him. SPD has 72 hours from the incident to release video. Several hundred people and a couple of big rigs showed up at the state capitol Saturday to protest COVID mandates. Speakers at the Government Resistance Impedes Tyranny rally spoke against mask mandates and emergency powers and pitched support for conservative candidates. KUOW's Austin Jenkins was there and says it was smaller than previous COVID protests. Several groups, including the Anti-Defamation League, criticized the organizers for fueling resentment toward widely supported public health measures. And now some good news. The doors are open at the new Rainier Valley location of the Odessa Brown Children's Clinic. Seattle Times reports the clinic will start seeing rehab patients today. Behavioral health services and other medical will start up later this week. The original location in the Central District has served the community since the 70s. You can find the clinic 1 block from the Othello light rail stop.
Many of you heard me say in months before I took office that we are out of control in terms of a city, that things have to drastically change. The whole conversation has to change. The whole feeling, the whole culture in Seattle has to change in terms of us being a vibrant, a safe city, a welcoming city.
That's Mayor Harrell on Friday announcing his public safety plan. He's calling it Operation New Day. It comes after 2 shooting deaths on 3rd Avenue within a week of each other, and the outcry from downtown businesses that have closed or said they're not reopening yet because it feels unsafe. He's planning on more cops downtown, more arrests, and more coordination with local and federal prosecutors. Sara Jean Green has been reporting this story for the Seattle Times and has covered downtown for a lot of years now. Sara, really appreciate you being here. Thanks for taking the time.
For sure. Hi, Trish.
Sara, this has obviously been a story that's been going on for quite a while downtown. 3rd and Pine, not a new situation. But what is the current version of this story as we're coming out of a pandemic right now?
Well, I think the explosion in the use of fentanyl is really impacting a lot of neighborhoods, and it's not just downtown, but, you see people openly using drugs on the street. And some of the folks that I talked to have said, heroin used to be the drug of choice in Seattle, and the heroin users would go and find a spot, to shoot up. And the sense now is that with fentanyl, people just can't wait to do it and are doing it openly, sitting on the sidewalk. We've had some changes in law and state law, making it harder to make those kinds of arrests. Plus, during a pandemic, when we've had restrictions on jail bookings, because it's a congregate environment, and the threats from the coronavirus were very, very real, and we've had different outbreaks in the jail. So they've tried to limit, the jail population, I think for, good reason. But, the open air drug use, I think, is something that's really kind of unnerved people downtown. And I don't really know what the solutions are, quite honestly. That intersection has long been an open air drug market dating back decades, 50, 60 years, if not longer. It kind of ebbs and flows as attention is brought to some of the issues there. But I think the fentanyl is like a total game changer. It's super cheap. It's a higher high than heroin. And, people are really addicted to the blues. That's what they call them.
Yeah. Like we've talked about, you and I have lived in the city for a long time, Sara. This is not a new issue in this area.
Yeah, it's true.
This idea, though, of hotspots keeps getting mentioned. And You know, what makes a place a hotspot and what makes them so hard to deal with? I think someone maybe driving past one of these areas might look and say, you know, maybe we should just throw some more cops. We need more police in that area. Not easily solvable.
Well, you know, SPD for years has been using data, you know, data-driven policing, this whole idea that when you have a shooting, you kind of flood that area in hopes of cutting down on retaliatory violence. We've seen it in the South End, you know, with some of the gang rivalries that have gone on. And, you know, and it makes sense that you concentrate your resources on where you've got crime. And, you know, the mayor's office's latest round, we don't know which other places they're targeting, which, you know, kind of makes sense because you don't necessarily want to tip your hand. And I get that. You know, and I bumped into Chief Diaz down at 3rd and Pine last week. And, you know, they don't want to lose ground in Little Saigon. I think, you know, that neighborhood, gosh, those restaurant owners and business owners there, you know, just the thefts and the break-ins and the drug use, like all of it, you know, that was really another place where it was centered. And we heard that, you know, when the cops kind of busted that up, a lot of people migrated to 3rd and Pine. So there was a sense that, holy cow, this is worse than it's been in a long while. And it's not uncommon that crime gets displaced. And I think it was displaced a little bit from 3rd and Pine as well. And where those folks ended up, we don't really know yet, but eventually, you know, it'll come to light at some point.
Yeah, and even Chief Diaz understands the inevitability of, you know, moving crime from one place to another because of disruption, you know, by the police force.
They just know that's going to happen.
You know, Sara, there have been plans to solve 3rd and Pine before, the 9.5 block strategy back in 2015. How did that go for anyone who might not remember?
It was really quite successful, I think, and things had quieted down quite a bit after that. And, you know, making environmental changes, I think, is something that, you know, is part of what urban planners look at. I mean, there's also been things that have been completely unsuccessful, like, you know, McDonald's at the corner of 3rd and Pine playing country music or then playing classical music. Like, I mean, that was a total waste of everybody's time. That did absolutely nothing.
I had to listen to classical music for quite a while on the Ave, by the way.
So, and you know, the police have done undercover narcotics investigations many, many times, but you know, those are things that they keep quiet, and those kinds of investigations take time. So it can seem like the cops are doing absolutely nothing when they're in fact doing these various operations. Again, you see that kind of ebb and flow. Things will quiet down for a little bit, and then maybe things start building back up, or maybe there's a new player in town, or a new shipment of something that comes in, and holy cow, we're having all these overdoses, or what have you. Crime does that. It does ebb and flow.
Obviously, Sara, we're dealing with a very complicated picture. Addiction, mental health, lots of people unhoused at this point. What is it going to take to solve these problems?
I wish I knew. You know, I'm a reporter. I'm not a sociologist or a psychologist. And the pandemic just makes everything so different. You know, I mean, if you think about it, we're the first people to live through a global pandemic in 100 years. And so I don't know that we have necessarily, you know, those kinds of answers. I've heard Dan Satterberg say, you know, sociologists are going to be studying this pandemic for years, and it's going to take a while. But I mean, when you look at cost of living in Seattle, which is just skyrocketed and isn't showing any signs of slowing, the pandemic and just all of, you know, the job losses there and the businesses that have closed and just the stress and anxiety to people and families. You know, I think it's just really hard to say right now. And then you've got this introduction of fentanyl, you know, which has been around for a couple of years, but I mean, just is accelerating, you know, that addiction piece of it. You know, it's quite a mix. It's quite a mix that we're all kind of contending with. We can't forget, too, that we've got a diminished police force. We've seen hundreds of officers leave SPD in the last 2 years, and that is a direct result from the whole defund the police movement. And, I think it's going to take years. We've lost a lot of experience, a lot of institutional knowledge within the police department. And, for a new recruit, it takes almost 2 years before that person is able to patrol on their own. So given the hundreds of officers that have left or retired or what have you, even with a commitment from the mayor to hire additional officers, it's going to take a while. There's only so many academy spots per year per law enforcement agency. I think it's 1 in 10 people who apply to become a cop will actually make it to the streets. I think it's just going to take a lot of years for us to get numbers of cops back up.
Sarah, the heartbeat of every city are the people and businesses who are in that city. And downtown, like we talked about, has been significantly absent of people. What are you hearing from the people and businesses downtown about what they'll need to know to feel safe, what they'll need to see to feel comfortable still doing business there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Some of the folks that I've talked to said that, we really need people back here. We need people on the streets, the foot traffic, people going to restaurants, and just having that presence of eyes and ears everywhere. And, folks that I've talked to, there's still, even though there is this desensitization that I think that's happened, there are still plenty of people who want to help and will stop and call 911 or will perform CPR or do show that they're worried about, their fellow human beings. But yeah, I think the business owners down there would like to see people come back and feel that vibrancy again. Lunchtime and 5 o'clock rolls around. And that, I think, for them will bring back a bit of that normalcy. And, we're going into this great public experiment, with the lifting of the mask mandates. And nobody knows yet what's going to happen or if, the virus levels in, immediate community are low enough. Or, we could have another surge. Like, nobody really knows what's going to happen. We thought that people would be returning to their offices in July, and then it was August, and then it was January. And now it's like, okay, well, maybe April. But I think a lot of people are taking we're going to wait and see what happens. One of the salon owners downtown said, I really want to be hopeful, but I'm going to wait a month and just kind of see what happens. There are people who have held on downtown and don't want to give up and, feel that they need the support of the community to stay in the fight. They need customers to survive. And, some of them are holding on. And so how do you get new people into those closed spaces? How do you get, the plywood off the boarded up windows and destinations that people really want to go to downtown?
There's definitely a sense that if people return downtown, the space, to quote a former mayor, becomes activated and more vibrant than it was before, Sara Jean. Well, I'll certainly be looking for your reporting. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Sara Jean Green, reporter at the Seattle Times, covering crime and the criminal justice system. Thanks for listening to Seattle Now. Jason Pagano and Clare McGrane produced today's show. Matt Jorgensen does our theme music. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow.
Hi there. One more thing. This year marks 70 years of KUOW keeping you informed and connected. As we look forward to the next 70 years, we'd love to hear from you and learn about what KUOW means to you and why public radio matters. Call 206-897-1303 to leave a quick message or visit KUOW.org/testimonials to learn more.